If you will turn in your Bibles to 2 Kings chapter 5. I have titled the sermon this morning, A Sovereign God. Now, what does that term mean, sovereign? It means he is in control. He is all-powerful. Nothing happens without him knowing. Nothing happens without his say-so. If you have a sovereign king, as they did back in the monarchy days, you had someone who was in charge of the entire country and his people. What he said was law. Well, we have a sovereign God. And we know whatever he says is true. And we know that he is the one who is in control. And that's the first thing that we definitely need to establish today, is that we do have a sovereign God. Now, I believe most of us in here today believe that he is all-powerful. We have heard that that is the quote-unquote Sunday school answer, that God is powerful, he is in control. But how many of us truly believe that? And I want you to really look in today and think, does God have full control of my life? Does God have full control of what is happening in my life? And do I give him credit just when the good things happen? But also when the bad things happen, know that they are happening because God allows them to for his glory. And that's what we're going to see today. We are going to see today, as we read through 2 Kings chapter 5, the beginning parts 1 through 16 today, we're going to see a man, a worldly man, who is a powerful man in the world, a prideful man in the world, be humbled by the glory of God. And so, again, in chapter 5 of 2 Kings, it says in verse 1, Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. So we're going to stop right there 1 second. The man we're talking about today is a man named Naaman. Now, this was, as it says here, a mighty man, a commander of the armies of Syria. At this time, Syria and Israel were constantly bickering back and forth. Constantly having battles back and forth, constantly having wars back and forth. The Israelites and the Syrians did not like each other. And so we have a commander of the Syrian army, commander of the army of the king of Syria. It says that he was a great man with his master. That means that the king of Syria viewed this man as a great man. That's a high praise coming from your king to say, you are great. You are an amazing man. You are a strong commander, and I am putting you in charge of my army. And it says that he was in high favor. That means that this man was a wealthy man. He was given privilege. He was given things that those of the lower ranks of the army would not have been given. He had probably slept in one of the best houses, given servants, had money, had everything he wanted. And it also says, though, in that next part right after that, though, who gave that to him? Was it the king that gave that to him? No. The king, allowed it, but he wasn't the one who truly gave it. It was God that God gave him these things. Because it says in that next part, and he was in high favor because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. Even over the Israelites, the Lord gave the Syrians victory. And that promoted this commander, Naaman, to a higher standing. All because God was in control of this. It says here, because by him the Lord had given victory. It wasn't anything that they were doing. Even over God's own chosen people, it wasn't anything the Syrians were doing. It was all because of God. And he says here, continuing in that verse, that he was a mighty man of valor. He was brave. He had courage. He was someone that everyone looked up to, but he did have a flaw. It says that he was a leper. He had a skin disease. He had a disease of the skin which made people, didn't want to touch him, didn't want anything to do with him. We'll praise you for your victories. We'll praise you because you have high praise with the king, but we don't want anything to really do with him. Now, in verse 2, it says, "Now the Syrians, on one of their raids, had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife." So we see here that the Syrians had a raid, which they normally did. They did raids along the border with Israel. They did raids to go in and take items, supplies, to kill soldiers, to go in and steal people to be slaves for themselves. And that's what they did here. The Syrian army went through, and they captured a little girl. And they made her a servant or a slave to Naaman and his family. And it says that she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. So she worked directly under the wife of Naaman. Now, do you think this girl wanted to be there? No. To be a servant to another human, to be a slave to another human, especially today, we know that is appalling. That is something that should not be done. It still happens all over the world today. And we constantly try to fight it. And back then though, that's the way it was. There was slavery then. And depending on who your master was whether you were going to be treated fairly or not. Now, she was an Israelite. A person who did despise the Syrians. And she was now a slave of the Syrians. And that's very important to know that she is now she is now a servant to them. She was put there. But we need to remember who is the one who put her there. Was it just happen chance that they went in and stole her and put her there in that situation? No. Even if it may not be something that we like, God is the one who put her in that spot. God was the one who allowed her to be captured and placed under service of Naaman and his wife. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's like, whoa, wait a minute. My God would not do that. My God is a loving God. My God does not want to see someone become a slave of another person like that. We have to remember that what God wants, God does. Whatever is going to further God's glory, He is going to allow. And you have to think to yourself, when you have times to yourself, and I know I've done this a lot too, there have been times where I'm thinking, God, why am I here right now? I could be anywhere out. I do not like where I am at right now. I do not like what's going on. Why can't you move me somewhere else? Why can't I be in a better spot, a better position in life, a better place than just where I'm at now? But we forget that God's the one who allowed you there in the first place. God put you there for a reason. Just as God had placed this little girl here for a reason. And we're going to see what that reason was right now, as it says here in verse 3. She said to her mistress, "Would that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy." So she went to her mistress, Naaman's wife. And think of this. She is an Israelite who despises the Syrians. She is now in service of them. She knows her Lord, her current master, Naaman, is covered with this skin disease, this leprosy. And think if you were in that position, would you say anything? Honestly. Think of yourself, would you say, I know someone who can cure him of that? Probably not. I don't like where I'm at. I don't like that they have control over me. I'm just going to keep quiet, even though I know someone who could heal them. But she doesn't. She has mercy on them. She has mercy on the Syrians. She knows that her God is powerful, and she knows that her God is stronger than anything that they have. Is stronger than any disease, stronger than any may have, she knew and trusted that God was in control, that God had control of all this, and that God had her where she was. She knew that. And so she said, hey, I know someone who can heal my master. I know someone who can heal your husband, Naaman. She had pity and mercy on the Syrian. So Naaman, in verse 4, so Naaman went in and told his Lord, thus and so spoke the girl from the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, when this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you Naaman, my servant, and that you may cure him of his leprosy. So, he went to his king. Naaman went to his king and said, one of my servant girls, my wife's servant, has said that she knows of someone who can heal me. Will you allow me to go and get healed by this man? The king says yes. In fact, I will send a letter to the king of Israel. And the reason that's a big deal here is because letters from monarchs or letters to a monarch or a king were protected at this time. So the Syrian messengers, along with Naaman, they would be protected as they're traveling through Israel. So we have to think, who has control there? Who is allowing this? It's God. God knew that if he went to his king and asked for this, the king would allow it. And God knew that that is the way to get in to see this man who would heal them, is with this letter to protect them. And so he went with all of this gold, all of this silver, and with 10 changes of clothing. That also shows you how proud this man was and how high up on status he was with the king of Syria. That he had 10 changes of clothing for this trip. These were very fine clothing. This was something that the king would say, change into to show off who you truly are. Do not let the leprosy define you. Let these fine clothes define you. Let them see these fine clothes and know that you are in favor with me. Take all this gold so that you may pay them, because I want you healed, because you mean that much to me. And so he went and he took him that letter. And the letter had said, when this letter reaches you, which it did, know that I have sent to you Naaman my servant, which he was there, that you may cure him of this leprosy. Now, does the king of Syria think that the king of Israel can cure him? No. He thinks that this man who can cure leprosy works directly under the king of Israel. And by the king of Israel's word will this man heal him. He was wrong. He was wrong, and we see that because the king of Israel went in verse 7, and when the king of Israel read the letter, it says he tore his clothes and said, am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Only consider and see how he is seeking to quarrel with me. The king of Israel knew who could cure this leprosy. And that was no man, that would have been God. Now the king of Israel, he has that. He tore his clothes. That is a sign of great distress. That is an outward sign of, hey, I can't do this. Like it is affecting him so much that he is so distressed by this letter. He tears his clothes in front of all that were there. And he says, who does this guy think that I am? Does he think that I am God? Does he think that I can cure this man? What he's doing is he's sending this because he knows I'm going to turn him away, and that's going to start a battle. That's what, that's a very serious threat that he has, a very serious concern that he has. But, in verse 8, but when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king, saying, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel." This is the man who will heal leprosy. Elisha, he took over after Elijah the prophet. We now have Elisha the prophet, who lives in Samaria. This is the one that the girl was talking about. So Elisha hears that the king was so distressed about this, that he had torn his own clothes. And Elisha sent a messenger to the king saying, "Why have you torn your clothes? Send him to me." And by saying that, "Why have you torn your clothes?" he's essentially saying, why are you not trusting God? Why are you worried about this? Why are you so worried that you would go to such lengths as to tear your royal clothes? Right? When you know that there are those who trust God, when you know that your God is the God above all gods, we know that your God is the one who is in control. Your God is all-powerful. Your God can heal the sick. Your God can bring the dead back to life. You know this, and yet why are you so worried? And he says, and he said to him, saying, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel." That last part, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel, what that is saying, that he may know that there is a God in Israel. That he may know that there is someone who serves a one true God in Israel. That he knows that there is someone who serves God and who can heal him with the power of God. And so, in verse 9, so Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood at the door of Elisha's house. Now that also shows us here how prideful this man is. It's one thing to show up with horses. That's fine. That's a normal thing. But the Syrians, they did have chariots that they would ride in. And the chariots would show off, this is a man or woman of great stature. A man or woman of great power. A man or woman who needs to be respected. So Naaman is showing up outside of Elisha's house. He doesn't go into the house. It says he stands outside of it. Almost as if, I don't need to go inside. You need to come to me. I don't just come to you. I'm so powerful. I am so much of a great person. I need you to come to me. I'll come to your house, but you need to come out to greet me. Now we see here, though, as he's standing there, it says in verse 10, what did Elisha do? He sent his own messenger out to him. He says, and Elisha sent a messenger to Naaman, to him, saying, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." It's almost a battle of back and forth. Me and my brother, we argue a lot, as brothers do. We have times to where it's, when we were younger, what we would do is we would get mad at who was playing the PlayStation. Okay, the video game console. We would get mad at that. It's my turn. All right? It's not your turn, it's my turn. You've been playing for the last hour and a half. So what we would do is one of us would go and take the controller and hide the controller. Well, then the other person would go and unplug the back of the PlayStation. Well, then the other person would go and turn off the remote, turn off the TV and take the remote. The other one would just unplug the remote, or just turn off the power. That's how we were, just going back and forth, back and forth. That's a little bit of what Elisha's doing here, as Naaman comes up and says, I am too good that I don't even need to go into your house. You need to come to me. Well, Elisha's like, I'm going to send a messenger to you while I'm in my house. Saying that no, that you don't understand, that you need to be bowing before the one true God. You need to be, this is not coming from me though. This is the difference between Elisha and Naaman. Naaman is saying that I am too proud and powerful that I don't even need to go into you. You need to come to me. Elisha's saying, no, you don't need me. You need God. That's what he's saying here. You don't need me to go out there and show you how to get healed, or show me to come out there and heal you by my hand. No, you just need to obey God. So, and Elisha sent a messenger to him. saying, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." Now, do you think Naaman went out there and just said, "All right, that sounds like an easy thing. I'm going to go out there and do that"? No. The pride of Naaman, the worldliness of Naaman, brings him down just a little bit more. As it says there in verse 11, "But Naaman was angry and went away, saying, Behold, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hand over the place and cure the leper. Are not the Abana and the Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and went away in a rage. His pride was so much. His pride was so great. His love of his worldly titles and his worldly possessions and his worldliness. His pride and his love of that had him blind to see that this is not coming from Elisha. Right? That you don't need Elisha to come out there, as he said. I thought that he would come out here to me and just start waving his hand everywhere and going to the Lord his God and heal me. I thought that that's what he would do. For sure, I thought that's what he would do. But Elisha is saying, no. That's not what you have to do. You just have to go out there into that river, our river, and you will be healed. And it even goes to a point where even he's saying, where I come from, Damascus, are not our own rivers way better than this Jordan River? Are not our betters better than anything that Israel has to offer? I could have just done this back then, back in my hometown, if this is going to heal. He doesn't see that it's not the river that's cleaning him, that it's God who's doing it. That God is the one in control of everything. That God is the one who has the power to heal him. But he is still thinking it's Elisha. He is still thinking that he is the one in control. Naaman is thinking that he himself is the one in control of the situation. Saying he needs to come to me and heal me. So as he's about to leave in a rage and a temper, it says in verse 13, "But his servants came near and said to him, My father," which is a term of great endearment. This means that his servants were right there with him, treated him, more than just a master. They loved him. And they said, "My father, it is a great word that the prophet has spoken to you. Will you not do it? Has he actually said to you, Wash and be clean?" He is saying to him, they are saying to him, what are you doing? Do you not realize what this man is saying? This prophet of their God is saying. He's saying all you have to do is go out there and wash yourself 7 times, and then you'll be healed. And you're not wanting to do it just to try it? They're saying, what are you thinking? Why don't you just go out there and try it? At worst, you're just going to get wet. And he sees that. So it says here in verse 14, "So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean." As he did so, as he went out, and he washed himself the exact number of times Elisha said to. As he went out and did that, he immediately was clean. His spots, his leperness were gone. His disease was gone. It says that he was like the skin of a baby. And I'm sure we've all felt the skin of a baby. It's nice and smooth. And that's how it was. His skin was completely clean. And it was the power of God. Now we get to the good part. In verse 15, we see the switch in Naaman's manner. We see the switch and the change of Naaman. And it says, "Then he returned to the man of God." He returned to Elisha and all his company. And he came and stood before him. And he said, "Behold, I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel." Right there. He is changed. He is changed from the power of God. He's saying that there is no other God than that of the one in Israel. He is forsaking his own gods. He is forsaking his worldliness. He is forsaking his own power because he has humbled himself before the power of God. And he is saying, essentially, his mood has completely changed. And that's what happens when we become saved. When we realize that God is the one that is in control. When we realize that it is not by ourselves that we can heal ourselves from our sin, that it is only through the power of Christ. It is only through God that we are healed. And it changes you. Just as it did Naaman. And he said that there is no God in all the earth but Israel. He knows that now. And he says, and so now accept a present from your servant. So now he is saying, please accept everything we've brought. Because you have used the power of God to heal me. Please accept everything. Probably a worldly, normal man. And this was normal back then. If a priest or a prophet came and healed you, it was normal to go ahead and give them an offering to their God or an offering for them. And so it would be normal for Elisha to accept it. But that's not what he does. Because it says, but he said, in the last verse, verse 16, but he said, as the Lord lives, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. Now I want you to think, why in the world would Elisha refuse that? Well, it's the same reason that he didn't come out. It's the same reason that he didn't come out and just touch him and heal him. Because it wasn't about Elisha. And he's showing Naaman this further in this ending part, that it's not about me. Right? I don't want the praise and glory. This is all about God. For he is the one who is in control. He is the one who has the power. He is the one who healed you, not me. And this all started, if we remember, this all started, and Naaman is a completely changed man, and he now glorifies the God of Israel. He has now accepted that he is the one true God. He is now a changed man, this worldly and prideful man. This has now been changed all due to the fact that God put that little girl under the service of Naaman's wife. In a place where she probably did not want to go. We don't even know her name. But a place where the little maid, the little girl did not want to be. A place that she was in the presence of her enemies. But she knew that her God was the greatest among all gods. Again, as we read in Psalm 135, it says, for I know that the Lord is great, and that our Lord is above all gods. Whatever the Lord pleases he does in heaven and on earth, in the seas and all deeps. He it is who makes the clouds rise at the end of the earth, who makes lightnings for the rain, and brings forth the wind from his storehouses. God is the one who is in control of this situation. He is the one who is in control of Naaman's life. He is the one in control of the little girl's life, the one in control of Elisha's life, the one in control of the entire Bible. He is the one who is in control today. The God then is the same God now. The Lord our God does not change. And if we truly believe that, then we have to truly believe that God is in control of our lives today. Now you may think in your job or your everyday life, what am I doing? Why am I here in this spot? I could be somewhere else. I should be working somewhere else. I could be somewhere else. My coworkers hate me. Well, think, why are you put in that position? Did you put yourself in that position? No. God did. God put you there for a reason. Talk with your coworkers, talk with your family members, talk with your friends. Talk with them about Christ. Talk with them about God. Ask them, do you know God? Are you saved? What do you know about the Bible? Do you know the gospel? Talk to them about it. That's why we are put in the positions we are put, to further God's glory. The same way we see here, that little girl was placed there, that Naaman was allowed safe passage, that Elisha didn't come out, but that Naaman had his servants there who talked him out of leaving? Do you think that all happened just by chance? Or do you think that there was a God who is in control, who put all these plans into motion? And so just remember, as we continue this week, and as we continue through the many weeks and through the years that we have, just remember that the places where you are put, you're put there by God. And that you may not, honestly, we may not like it. And we may not understand why we are in a spot, or why we are in a position, or why things are happening that we don't like. But we need to know that Christ is the one who put us there. God is the one who put us there, not for our own glory, but for His. So we're going to go ahead and end that today. We're going to have a quick word of prayer, and then we will be dismissed. Dear Lord, we praise you and glorify you. We thank you, dear Lord, for everything you've done for us. And dear Lord, in those times where we think, I shouldn't be here, dear Lord, or everything is going wrong, or why, God, have you put me in this spot? We need maybe just step back and see that this is all for your glory. That you are the one in control. That you are the one who will take care of us. That you know what is best for us, dear Lord. Lord, I ask you to be with everyone here today as we finish up this service, dear Lord. Let us all just know that you are the one in control. Let us all know that you are the one true God. And may us all just love you unconditionally as you love us. In your name we pray. Amen.